Rational Choice Theory and Labeling Theory by Melissa Bennett. What are criminal theories and how do we use them? Criminal theories are typically a set of explanations that are trying to understand why a person commits a crime. Going over the causes and patterns of criminal behavior. Using criminal theories is often trying to explain something that seems unexplainable, but finding patterns that allow you to explain the way a person behaves. Introduction to Rational Choice Theory. What is rational choice theory? Rational choice theory is the idea that people commit crimes based on the reward they will receive after. This can include weighing out the good and the bad that could come from them committing this crime, typically looking for personal gain only. Rational choice theory is used in things other than criminology as well, such as economics, political sciences, and sociology. Introduction to labeling theory. What is labeling theory? Labeling theory is when society labels someone as a deviant child, and that label can influence their behavior and typically in their adult life will lead them to criminal behavior. Labeling theory indicates that society's assigning of labels to individuals or certain groups can have an effect on their behavior. Labeling theory is used in criminology and sociology. The purpose of both of these theories. What is the purpose of rational choice theory? The purpose of rational choice theory is to explain how a person behaves by assuming the person is making these decisions based on the idea that they will gain something positive out of it and nothing negative will happen to them after as well. What is the purpose of labeling theory? The purpose of labeling theory is to understand different social characteristics, specifically the harmful ones. Labeling theory is also finding an explanation to why children choose criminal behavior so early. Putting a label on a child can lead them to self-isolation and lead them to internalizing that label and making that who they are. Rational choice theory. Human behavior is often driven by the desire to maximize the hedonic experience. The hedonic experience refers to a person's pleasure and pain receptors. Criminologists often use the hypothetical scenario method in order to test perpetual deterrence and rational choice theories. Hypothetical scenario method provides the participant with a brief vignette describing the offending opportunity. Participants are then asked to assume the role of the protagonist and self-report whether they would commit the crime or not. This is basically giving a group of people a survey that allows them to fill out answers based on the crime committed. It's typically whether they would commit the crime or not based on positive outcomes and negative outcomes. Studies using hypothetical scenario method have generally supported the rational choice perspective that traditionally examined cost of crime, immorality, and negative emotional state have been found to deter people from committing crimes. Rational choice theory. When making decisions to offend, people consider the potential outcomes of action, like the risk of being caught, disappointing others, loss of respect from their peers. There are many other things that can go into a person making a decision to commit a crime. Typically, they are looking for a positive outcome for themselves, whether that be personal gain, financial gain, emotional gain, whatever that may be. Many individuals can differ in their tolerance for risk. Some may risk averse in that changes the likelihood of arrest. Others can be risk tolerant, which is the likelihood of arrest weighs minimally on offending decisions. So that means that there are two different types of people when it comes to rational choice theory, and one of those being that if there is a higher likelihood of arrest, then there is a lesser chance that person is going to commit a crime. And if there's another person that if there is a possibility of arrest, there still is the chance that they commit this crime because they don't really care about being arrested. They just care about the personal gain that they're going to receive from committing this crime, whether they have to spend time in jail or not. Examples of crimes When talking about rational choice theory, there are specific crimes that one can look into for personal gain, and I picked two of those. The first is shoplifting. When an individual is looking at committing a shoplifting crime, there are a few things that they think about. 1, getting caught. 2, getting away with it. 3, getting something they need or want for themselves without paying for it. Shoplifting is one of the easiest ways to get a personal gain because you're stealing it, so you're not paying for it, and it's something that you need or something that you want. The second crime I chose is white-collar crimes. White-collar crimes are typically committed through a business or a government. This is a non-violent crime and is more aimed towards financial gain. Examples of white-collar crimes are things like tax evasion, mortgage fraud, and money laundering. White-collar crimes seem to be higher on the list when it comes to picking a crime for personal gain. Labeling theory. The most important aspect of labeling theory is its application of interactionist model to the definition of deviance and crime. It is often said as a way of framing the issue if the power to define that the labeling perspective expresses an idealistic stance because it centers its explanatory power in language. To me, that quote means that you are putting a label on someone, and the power of that language can lead that person to internalizing and really finding a way to become that person that everybody is saying that they are. Labeling theory is fully based on the outcome of a person's behavior when they are referred to as something they may not be, which is one of the reasons why labeling theory receives so much backlash. More information on labeling theory. In the 1960s is when labeling theory really starts to show up in history, but sometimes it's mirrored in controversy. Because these controversies, there were many changes made to labeling theory to make it what it is today. It was believed that labeling resulted in the formation of a deviant identity in the part of the deviant individual, which caused further delinquency on their part. I added this quote because I think that it really drives in the fact that labeling an individual as deviant can lead them to potentially actually showing deviant behavior as an adult and not just as a child. Examples of crime. When talking about labeling theory, there can be a few different crimes that a child might lean towards, but I think these are the two that were at the top of my list. So first I chose petty theft. When a child is labeled as deviant, it will typically lead them to involving themselves in petty theft, which is stealing someone else's property without their consent. Petty theft can be anything from stealing a friend's phone, a friend's laptop, or even stealing hundreds of dollars worth of personal items to keep for yourself. Gang violence is the second one I chose. Many young kids can be labeled as gang members from a young age because of the way that they carry themselves, or the way that they dress, the way that they look, the way that they talk. It could really be anything that could get these kids labeled as gang members. This can lead a child into gang violence, which means they're internalizing the label put on them and turning it into who they are. A child hearing the term gang member when being referred to them is something that could change the way that they perceive themselves drastically, and like I said, internalizing that label that's being put on them and really turning that into who they are. How are these theories used to understand criminal behavior? Rational choice theory. Rational choice theory is used to understand criminal behavior by trying to understand what sort of risks a person is willing to take for a personal gain. Whether they're okay with taking a risk of going to jail, or whether they're not going to take that risk because they could go to jail. Many people are likely to commit a crime if they have a lessened chance of being caught. Even if it hurts others, having a personal gain is one thing that rational choice theory relies on to understand criminal behavior. How are these theories used to understand criminal behavior? This time, labeling theory. Labeling theory helps understand criminal behavior starting at a young age. Kids are often labeled as something they are not, which can lead them to internalizing that label and making sure that's who they become. Adults have a big impact on the way that kids turn out, and I think that when a child is labeled by an adult that they look up to, they believe that's who they are or who they should become, and that's when the label gets internalized. A negative stereotype is typically attached to the label, including things like calling a kid deviant or a gang member. This can lead to self-isolation as well, and that child's social life could be affected. What did I learn during my research? During my research, I learned that rational choice theory is something everyone does, whether it's related to a crime or not. A lot of decisions made by humans are based on the positive or negative outcomes. I think it's important to understand the idea that we as humans make decisions without considering others a lot of the time. When I did my research on rational choice theory, I came to terms that this is also used in many different parts of my life. I don't obviously commit crimes. However, I do make decisions based on if I'm going to get a positive gain out of it or a negative gain. And most of the time, if it's negative, I don't do it, but if it's positive, I will. During my research into labeling theory, I learned that a lot of people don't believe in labeling theory or the aspects that go along with labeling theory. However, I believe that labeling theory is something that you can add to the list of things that lead children to being career criminals in their adult years. Labeling a child puts extra tension on who they are and who they should become, and it makes them question themselves. And overall, I think that labeling a child, no matter if it's positive or negative, should be something that adults try to stay away from.